You deserve quality healthcare for your body and mind regardless of your ability to pay. That's why Bowen Health conveniently offers trusted mental health care, primary health care, and addiction recovery treatment for everyone. Having regular checkups with a provider you trust means they can catch concerns early before they become an emergency. For compassionate healthcare, make an appointment today at bowenhealth.org. That's bowenhealth.org.
Well, welcome back to the ThriveIN Wabash County podcast. In the studio today are two special guests and two friends of mine, along with Christine Flohr. Welcome back, Christine.
Two friends, three friends.
Well, you're my friend too.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, it's good
also
to be
co-host.
Here. Yeah, and they're also my friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a group of friends.
Just a group having a conversation.
Yeah. Sharing the stories of Wabash. In the studio, we have Mike Paul and Bill Rauh, and talking about one of my favorite events every year in Wabash County. What started as just a grassroots celebration of Bill's birthday has turned into an annual tradition. I think, is this the 17th year?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is.
Jeez. All right, 17 years of riding the roads of Wabash County, and this all started because of you, Bill.
Well, thank you. I'd like to say that. I guess it started not just me, it's just the idea of physical fitness and exploring the county. I learned about it. The trail had been written. Max Reed introduced me to that down at the YMCA. I didn't even hardly know Max, but he knew we were riding bikes, and he mentioned something about that, and I got the map from him and kind of got with Mike and a couple other people and said, hey, well, let's try and do that. So it was I think it was a Thursday, was my 50th birthday in September, and we started that. I appreciate you saying that this is one of your favorite events in Wabash. It has been my favorite thing I've done in a long, long time, and I think it's really neat. And I wish I was more a part of it than I used to be, but reasons I can't do all that. But it's a neat thing, and what it has become is just beyond me. So thank you all for inviting me today.
Well, we wanted to highlight this annual event that's coming up here in September. It happens every year in September. And what better way to talk about where the event has come from than to bring in some of the original riders. So welcome to the studio, Mike.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
From my understanding, this was one of your first kind of cycling events.
That was the first.
I
bought my bicycle that summer. I don't know how far I'd ridden up to that point when Bill said, we're going to do a 100-mile ride, and I was like, OMG. I'm not ready for that. But I was, and it happened. I don't remember a lot.
I thought you said OUCH. Ouch. I don't remember OMG. I thought, ouch.
But yeah, I wasn't ready, but I got ready. Yeah. So I don't know how far I'd even ridden a distance before that ride.
I don't think any of us had ridden really far.
Right.
I don't know why we decided 100. I blame it on Max for giving me that map.
Right.
Yeah. So, Bill, what was the furthest you had ever ridden before that point?
Well, I had ridden further than that because when I was in residency, we used to do that down in the Texas Hill Country, and we would go and ride. And I rode with guys much better riders than me, and I would struggle through the hill country. And naturally, it's Texas Hill Country, and it was 100 degrees every day, and nothing was flat in the hill country. And we used to ride down there, and we would ride for like 3 or 4 days, and we would ride 100 miles probably back then. But God dang, we were all kids then. We didn't know what tired meant. We just did that. And having done what I did for a living, where you work all day and then you work all night, kind of used to those kind of hours. So we rode with, most of these guys were other doctors that were down in Texas at the time. So I had ridden before, but not on anything good as far as a bicycle, nothing like that. They were all, quote, lead sleds that we called them back then. And then secondly, I had not had the time to train because it was a pretty demanding schedule I had. But again, we started that. And then when I came back home, I didn't ride for years. I ran. And Mike and I would run quite a bit because we were neighbors at the time.
Wait a minute. Mike Paul was a runner?
He was, yeah. I didn't say good. I just said he was a runner. More of a chaser.
Fast walk.
Maybe a chaser is better.
Yep, fast walk.
So we got into the fitness thing, and through my practice, I saw a lot of people's knees getting bad. And out in the country, the roads are all humped, and so you'd run into traffic, run back, and you were always on a hump, and it wasn't flat. And I witnessed that, and I thought, gosh, do I really want to keep doing that? And so that's when I started getting a bike. And, you know, my wife at the time was interested in that too. So we went and bought a couple bikes. And actually, I bought 3 bikes because I bought one for my sister, Sarah. And we started riding. Mike joined us, got a bike, and we started doing that. And it just kind of took off from there. So I would say 20-mile rides maybe is what we were doing back then.
So maybe a 30.
Maybe.
I don't remember any distance.
So never
that
100.
point.
So take us back to that first year. It doesn't sound like there was a long ramp up between the idea and the actual 100-mile ride of the Wabash County Trail back then. What were you looking to accomplish, and how did you get people to come along and support you and ride with you?
Well, it was my 50th birthday, and I had thought about what do I want to do. Relatively fit, and thought, let's do something different. And so we decided to do this bike thing. We didn't know very many bikers. I think there was 9 of us went on the very first one, so it wasn't like there was a lot of that going around here. None of us had good bikes or anything like that. There was no real preparation. But I had done these bike rides in Texas and knew we needed a sag wagon. That was the key. That was a pickup truck, which was mine. So we knew, okay, what do we need? Clothes, food, lots of food, drinks, spare parts, you know, who can change tires. So if something happens. And at that time, we all rode together. You know, it wasn't like a lot of these rides now, you'll have a group of fast guys and a group of intermediate. Yeah. And so then we just kind of all took off and we just went. And, you know, we had someone driving the truck at the time, a couple young ladies, and they rode, and we just kind of just did it. There wasn't a lot of thought process.
And everybody knew where the route took you, and so you could send the SAG up to, say, Manchester and meet us at this intersection, or how did that work?
If the SAG followed us.
Okay.
The whole
It was just
time.
the whole time, just drove behind us and had the flashers on the whole time. And just as we went somewhere, if someone needed to stop, we stopped because we were all together. If someone got a flat tire, we stopped and fixed the flat tire. Someone was thirsty or needed a water change, you know, or, you know, we'd stop and like at the dam, let's stop and look over the dam, you know, because everybody drives across it. No one rides. So just stop and look because, you know, we don't take that time to do that.
What is a major memory for you, Mike, from that first year?
Major memory.
That was your first long,
Oh, yeah.
full day.
First one.
Yeah.
Back to when I got my bike, I got it that summer, like June 1st. It was actually my doctor wrote me a prescription, said you need to get a bike.
No comment from the doctor.
So I got one, doctor's orders. But it's kind of vague, the ride exactly. I remember just a few things here and there 17 years ago.
That and we weren't fast.
No,
We didn't set any land speed records at the time.
Mm-hmm.
We just casually went along. And I would say if I was the second least, you were the least
Right.
experienced because the other ones all had ridden.
Correct.
Some of the other guys hadn't, and we hadn't done that. So
And so you start and finish at your house?
did, yeah. We started at my house and finished at my house. And the thing that I remember was my parents. I invited them to come, and they were at the house when we got there. And my dad was eating sandwiches, waiting for us to get there, going, wait a second, those are for us. And just kind of laughed about that. And my little brother was alive at the time.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of a fun thing to do.
Was it known right then, after that first year, like, we're going to do this again next year?
There was a sense, I can't, again, 17 years ago, I can't remember for sure, but there was obviously that thing. This was kind of fun, you know, because we didn't kill ourselves. We didn't set a time schedule or anything. So we did it. It was fun. And just kind of who would want to do it? And it really kind of caught. You know, there are people all of a sudden, because we started riding then, you know, and the next year I quit running completely. I think between your basement lifting weights and riding our bikes, that was our main fitness.
And so I joined, I don't know if it was year 2 or year 3, but it was the year we called the Soggy Century.
Okay, I would say I thought it was 3
I
or
remember
2. I
that
couldn't
one.
remember. I remember that one.
Everybody remembers
Everybody
that one.
remembers that.
Horrible.
Rained, well, I think we made it to Manchester before it started raining, and then it rained for the remainder of the next 70 miles or something.
And cold.
Cold, windy, yeah.
We ended up calling Alex to bring the heaters over and put them in my garage and fire them up. And then I think my mom was there, and I said, go to the house, get all the blankets, put them in the dryer. We'll come home, and I can just remember it being cold and wet.
Well, not all of us finished it either.
No.
Because I know I quit at 80 miles or
Yeah,
something.
and we quit at the Francis Slocum Cemetery.
Yes.
We pulled in there and said, this is nonsense. And I want to think maybe 3 guys.
I finished.
Yes.
Mm.
Went on and we turned back home.
I know Rod Morrison finished.
Yes.
And the year
Dawson, Brian did.
probably Dawson. I remember
Dawson,
we made
yeah.
it to La Fountain, and I think we got on Brian Dawson's porch because it was raining so hard we couldn't see.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and I remember crossing Salamone Dam and not being able to see the other end of the dam. It was raining
Wow.
so hard.
Yeah.
I've never been so wet in my life.
Funny, I remember sitting in the garage warm and comfortable, sipping some hot chocolate while you were doing that and not feeling guilty at all.
I felt good.
I felt good. Pretty proud. I felt really smart right then.
Well, I think it's interesting how, just a grassroots fun event that no intentions that this was even going to go necessarily for year 2 or that it was going to grow into what it is now. It was just done because you wanted to, right?
Incredible. I agree with you 100%. And to think our little town of Wabash, and you hear about these people starting these things and they just grow, the breast cancer awareness thing, all these things that live strong. How big did that get? And we did this here, and Chrissy and her team have taken it to just crazy how big it is. We're 9, now we're 900. Was that
Close.
close to
Close,
that?
yeah.
Yeah, at one time, just crazy, which is fun to think, gosh, it kind of happened right here in Wabash.
So over the course of years 1, 2, and then 3, it grew by word of mouth. I mean, that's how I knew about it. I don't know if I met you and Mike, and maybe I think Parker Beecham was in year 1, and he may have said something to me. And so, I'm training, I'm riding on my own, and all of a sudden, we've got Wednesday night groups where we're all getting together and going out and riding 20, 25 miles. Comes around to your birthday again, and out we go. And I remember it going from 1 or 2 pickup trucks to 2 or 3 pickup trucks and coolers in the backs and kind of set sag spots because we did start to break up a little bit. You had some faster riders and some slower riders, but we adapted to the needs, and it was about having fun.
It really was.
Celebrating you and your birthday and Wabash County.
Yeah, I don't remember birthday cake, but I'm sure that was probably involved in it. And it was always on my birthday, too. It wasn't, the Saturday or Sunday like we do now at a convenience for all the other people, but that it was really neat how that all came into fruition. And the T-shirts, we started printing T-shirts, right off the bat. I think my wife at the time had designed something and did it, and then it just kind of grew from there as to what was going to happen. I think other people got involved in that. And
yeah, that's been one of the really cool traditions from year 1.
Year
Mike, you've got a T-shirt over there.
I got year 1 T-shirt.
Yeah, lift that. Let's hold
all
that up.
signed by everybody, too. Didn't we sign them all, too?
Not this one.
Okay.
Not this particular one.
Because I want to think I still have mine at home somewhere. Yeah. Who's Beatty?
Who's
What
Beatty?
is I guess I have.
Did you sign the back of it? Is there signatures all over the back? Oh, that's awesome. That's incredible.
I was going to wear it, but apparently it shrunk in my closet.
It does that. It's a physics thing,
It's a little tight.
chemistry, the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, apparently it shrunk in my closet. Since
Oh, you just got
2010.
swole, like your muscles just got bigger. I'm sure that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
swole
go.
once he started eating donuts on Saturday morning. That's how he got swole.
He's doing it on purpose, bringing me a donut every week.
That T-shirt, though, is one of the fun traditions that continued into year 2 and 3. And now, Christine, you and your team every year design a brand new T-shirt to celebrate the event. And this year, being the 250th anniversary of the US of A, have done a whole entire theme around that.
Yeah, we have. It's neat to, one, have such support from Bill and Mike Paul. I have to say his name like that. It's not just Mike. It's always Mike Paul to me.
It flows better.
It
flows
does.
better.
It does. So with Bill and Mike Paul, they leaned in right away when we were friends, and I knew he was doing this, and it showcased the whole county. And I'm not a cyclist. And so year 4, myself and Abby Traver, we volunteered to be one of the SAG wagons so I could see what that was like. And we just kind of lifted from what they were already doing, and that was working because they're cyclists. You both are cyclists, and you know what you need along the way. So we just leaned in, and we kept the tradition of the shirts. Our artwork has changed every single year since year 1, and they're collector items, commemorative T-shirts. And that's been super fun, too. The year that the ride fell back on Bill's birthday, we hid a little Easter egg in the art design and put his initials on the water bottle so that it would pay homage back to it falling on. We had a poster made for Bill that day, and just because we don't forget those grassroots events, if you stick to the heart and the soul, and that's what we saw those first 4 years, a relationship of friends having a good time, not overly complicated. It's not a race. Enjoy yourself while you're out there on that bike safely, and you have to feed us because we're hungry. And we really just followed their lead. And from that year on, when we kind of professionalized it, marketed is what we did, you both helped us figure out how we needed to do that and also keep true to those key pieces that made it so memorable from year one in 2010.
Sure, we might have helped. I think we followed directions.
Yeah.
Wow.
So thank you for leading us.
Well, you're kind. And the artwork is really cool to capture each year.
Yeah.
That New Jersey this year is phenomenal.
You love it. And
Yeah.
how many jerseys do you have?
One from every year.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is just like that collect.
It's the best one.
Thank you.
by
I'll tell
far.
Brittany that on
Yeah,
the marketing
it's
team sheet.
Phenomenal.
Is mine been
excited.
delivered yet?
I haven't got mine.
They're not in. You'll get them
Okay.
day of ride.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll get them day of ride.
This year, the theme, I think, is Let Freedom Ride. Is that right?
Correct.
And what I think is remarkable is that, Christine, when you started to get involved in the Dam to Dam, you were actually very, very new at Visit Wabash County, right? You had
Yeah.
been there probably 2 years?
If that. So, yeah, because yes, that is correct. Year one was 2010. I started at Visit Wabash County in 2011. And so year four, I volunteered of Bill's ride. And then year five, we ran it and took it and built it out from there.
What did you see in this event that you said, okay, this has gone from a birthday ride? Because at the time, we were probably we had 30 people maybe,
I
right?
think the biggest probably was 30. Close to that, yeah.
You got close to 60, I think, in year four. And that's when it was that bigger word of mouth. Like Rick Serino from Intertech was now coming over and riding and really didn't know everybody, but had heard about it. And it was still pitching style.
We met at the YMCA then.
Yeah,
At
correct.
that point, because there's so many people.
There were so many people. Your driveway couldn't hold them all.
No, exactly. Yeah, I remember that.
But what did you see in that event to say, you know what, this is a community event now and something that we can use at Visit Wabash County. We can promote the ride and expand on what it is.
Two things happened. One, the ride, the original Wabash River Trail, or bike trail.
Wabash County
Bike trail.
Bike trail.
Yeah, thank you. Was designed to showcase 16 historic points of interest throughout Wabash County. So that was its key design in the beginning. And so we knew that we could create an experience for locals and visitors alike to see some of the unique places and corners of Wabash County. You know, most people know about the Honeywell Center. Most people know about Manchester University. But we wanted to make sure all of the corners of the county were covered. So that was one checkbox. And the second was I had met with Parker Beecham, who had been riding with your group, and he had shared that there was an organized ride in a neighboring county that had ceased to exist. And it had averaged right around 200 or 300 riders, but thinking that could be a gap we could easily fill with our event building skills and the interest in cycling that had started to kind of grow in this area. And so we leaned in, and I asked Bill if he would mind if that was something we didn't want to take from him. You know, it was his birthday ride, so we didn't want to take from him and dilute it in any way. And he absolutely was like, please, you know, come along, learn what it's like. I'll answer your questions. And really, from the very, very beginning days, Amy Ford, Mike Paul, Bill, Rod Morris, Roger Peebles sat around that table and helped us figure out how to professionalize it, you know, and then it costs money. So how do we make it sustainable? And another byproduct out of that, Greg Garner, he's helped all along.
Ryan Chambers. At that
Yeah,
point.
Ryan Chambers. Thank you. And out of that, you know, year five came, we need to get better signage on the trail, what was identified as the Wabash County Bike Trail. And so now you see throughout the county the yellow vehicular traffic signs with arrows. And that came to fruition out of support from Midwest Eye at the time, Greg Gardner, and this committee helping identify what that route was turn by turn, so we could put arrows on there. And so from there, it has truly met the mission of Visit Wabash County. And it's one of my favorite events because it was the very first event that Visit Wabash County built and executed early in my leadership days.
So if you're ever out driving through the country and maybe you're out near Manchester or Rowan and you see the little yellow signs that say WCBT,
Yeah.
and they do have a little bicyclist, I believe, on them, don't
They have a bicycle icon, yes.
That's what that was. That identifies the Wabash County Bike Trail, and I think most of those are still probably up. The route has definitely changed over time because as a committee, one of the things is this ride has grown from half a dozen to 60 to 700, 800 is that you start looking at safety and the number of cyclists that are on the road and where are we crossing intersections and are we on State Road 13 or 15? And so we have had to deviate a little bit. But in addition, we've created additional rides and different lengths as well. So I think, Mike, early on when you were on the committee and we were looking at, not every cyclist is looking to go 100 miles. They might be looking to go their first 40-mile ride or their 50-mile ride.
A lot of beginners, 15 is.
That's right. Right. And so, you, Mike, you sat around that table in those first years when we started to look at routes and what does the cyclist need from the novice to the advanced and everywhere in between. And what do you remember about, as this thing has grown, it's gotten more and more complicated, and maybe sometimes we even think too complicated. But what we're accomplishing is bringing.
The toughest thing is marking everything. It might look easy when you're riding your bike through intersections. Oh, there's an arrow, but somebody had to go and paint those thousands of arrows. So that's one of the memories I have of doing that a lot.
I wonder how many. That's a great something we should try. How many arrows do we actually paint for all of those routes in a year?
It could be 1,000 easily.
It could be.
It's multiple at every intersection.
Yeah.
Not just one, because you got to paint pre-intersection and then post-intersection and say, nope, keep going this way.
Confirmations.
Yeah, confirmations you're going the right direction.
And even the arrows themselves or the details, we thought of very early. I learned what a John Henry was. I never heard that before. And which is just a circle with a stick through it. And so very early on, I learned that a nice spray painted outlined arrow and then using the letters D2D as part of the way that we mark this route makes it easier for cyclists. Like I remember you guys saying you have to have so many before, confirmation arrows after a turn to make sure that our cyclists felt secure out in our roadways.
Do you remember last year or 2 years ago when I called and I said, I'm missing left arrows, all I got is right ones?
And I think I paused and I was like, what? And then I was
I'll
like,
get back with you said. Yeah, I apologize for that.
why do you do these things to me?
Keep you on your toes.
Yes, you do.
It has. The Bill and Mike and I, we've spent many of hours, and Mike and I have ridden in the back of the pickup truck while Bill's driving and try to toss us out 60 miles an hour.
But did you know why I was driving? Oh, wrong way over here. Couldn't figure out the route.
That's true.
I had to say, this is where we're turning. This is where you stop and paint.
Every day is a
wrong
new
way.
day.
Paint.
Every day's a new day.
Oh, wrong way.
So I got a question. How did we come up with the name and who did of Dam to Dam?
We did.
not.
We did.
Oh, okay. I was
We
just trying to think of that. I
did.
thought, I didn't come up with that.
We did, and it was in one of our first committee meetings.
Okay.
As we were building it out, we were trying to figure out what do we call it. And we were then thinking, gosh, it's so beautiful to ride over the Mississinawa and Salamone dams. And then we had the Stockdale Dam. And so I think that just became something that was an identifier and differentiated this ride from other rides that are out there. And there's a plethora of opportunities now to ride. And we see some rides have been around a long time and others are new and still growing. But I think that was where it came from and it differentiated it. And we've had the same event brand logo since that first year, like
Perfect.
little waves in the M of dam.
So we can give Mike credit for something.
Something.
Okay, good.
Something.
At times.
At times.
At times.
Let's move on.
Yeah, too much credit.
I'm glad you brought up the markings, though, because it is one thing that when Christine and her team, they send out a survey after every ride, every year, and that is one thing that comes back year after year after year that we do exceptionally well. And
It's critical.
it is critical,
Yep.
especially as we've gone from a group of a dozen or two of friends that are just kind of riding together around the county to when now we're bringing people from 17 other states or something that have ridden in dam to dam. These people have never been on our roads.
They don't know 'em.
The last thing you want them to do is get lost, right?
Right.
And you want them to feel very, very confident and comfortable of where they're at and where they're going. And so thanks for bringing that up, Mike. It's a critical part of what the committee and the volunteers help put on.
Now, last year I didn't paint. You've kind of taken that from me, so.
We had some complaints.
I can say
wrong way. No, we're just kidding.
early retirement.
Yeah. You know,
I wasn't complaining, though.
those details, as we're kind of looking to share memories of when we first started this, think of what our SAG kits, support and gear kits, look like for our volunteer stations throughout the ride, and how our volunteers used to pick them up and set them up themselves, and how much the ride grew to the point where it was too much for our volunteers to execute. And now we have a whole separate set of volunteers that deliver those kits and then pick them up and return them back, because the kits are a piece that I learned from all of you real cyclists, which is what supplies do we have out there on the road for these cyclists. And I can also remember the year you and we delivered them all.
Every single stop.
Every single stop. Wait,
That
maybe
was
you
one
helped.
and done.
That was. We learned. I think we decided that others are going to help us.
Yes. That was
It was an all-day
day thing.
loading your trailer, going out.
Yep.
But the flip side, yes, it was a one and done. But all of our host locations, the relationships that we have been able to build over these 17 years, and that's meaningful to, I think, all of us, is the way this community has embraced it, because it's work. It's a lot of work.
100%.
How many volunteers does it take now to put this event on?
We estimate close to 300 people are volunteering. Wow. And we have Stephanie is getting ready, who's now the event director. She's getting ready to make some announcements of those who have supported this event for 10 years or more. And also the number of volunteers that return. Bill's office has always supported this event, and they make it a fun staff outing day. And the number of other organizations or just people who want to be there on a Sunday and support these riders. And their feedback is, man, cyclists are the nicest people. They're always like, thank you so much. Thank you for the bacon, So it's in EMA volunteers their time. The sheriff's department is always aware. The city police is always aware. The street department, parks department, making sure trails are blown off. That's a weekend for them too, and they choose to pour in year after year. And the county highway department, took us a while to work out the chip and seal schedule out there.
That took a while.
That took a bit.
I remember us talking about that, going, can they not chip and seal every road in the county? Yeah.
Only the bike
And
route, apparently, yeah.
Exactly.
They've done a lot this year.
They've done a lot already,
It's early,
which
so-
is good.
And early communication. So you think about the people who are there that day, and the hours they give, but just the give and take on either side of that, it's beautiful. It gets me.
And that's your team. Because we know you guys do that. So we all appreciate that a bunch. That's why it's become what it has.
And the committee, too, has given. And as some have come and gone from the committee, they still show up and help in other ways.
Nice.
Even if they can't be there in those, monthly or weekly or, every couple of month meetings to just check in. We've got it pretty well down now. Mike Paul is still my ride or die setup, 5 a.m.
Yep.
He says,
The
look,
arch.
I can't make it to every meeting, but what do you need? I can be there for you.
Yep.
And the big letters. Bill, the same thing. Augie's Friends has been a sponsor of this event since day one and supported that. And you've ridden with the Rauh siblings?
Exactly. That was always a fun thing for me back then. So we talk about taking the ride from 100 miles down. That was probably one of the best things for me to see, because none of my siblings even though they like to, Mike will tell you, think they could ride with us, couldn't ride with us. And so the shorter trails were good. Even my daughter at one time came and rode on a Huffy,
Yep.
a big
Remember
fat
that.
tired Huffy.
Did
and rode.
she?
Yeah, and rode. I think she went to Rauh and back.
Sure.
But it was just kind of fun that you see those people involved as well, which, encourage cycling for the future.
Oh,
When
yeah.
They start
And
like that.
I
decide.
remember being that a part of the conversation as a committee was talking about how do we get the youth involved. And so one of the things that we decided early on was that youth, I think it's 18 and under, ride for free. Doesn't matter whatever distance you want to ride. But what we were trying to do is get families out there. Maybe it's young kids and they could go to Rauh and back. That's a long ride for a young kid. We've had young high school students, though, ride the entire 100-mile route in their first big event. So it's always been fun because as the committee, we've focused on how do we give back to the cyclists that are coming into Wabash County, and then also in mind of what does that do for our community as a whole.
Right.
And I think that's been the tremendous thing. I mean, from hotels to restaurants, the impact that it's had on our community that you didn't start this ride because of that.
No.
None of us rode in it or even volunteered because of that in those early days. But it's just been the reward of all of the work is people seeing our community many times for the very first time.
What's the percentage out of this community that ride every year?
We average
80% or something?
Oh, it's got to be higher than that. I think we average about at high end 90 people will be from Wabash County that ride in this event.
Wow.
Yeah, the bulk is outside.
Yeah, the bulk is outside of Wabash County. But that became one of our goals then as a committee for a while was to say, okay, how do we actually get people from our community to get healthier? Kind of to go back to your original goal, how do we get people locally to join in and get healthy? And 100 miles is not an aspiration of a lot of people.
No.
But how do we get them to show up every Saturday and start riding? And so there was a local club that got started called Liking for Biking that still operates every Saturday. And people go out and they can ride for an hour, 30 minutes out, 30 miles back. And that has grown. And what we have seen is an increase in the number of local riders that show up every year, or at least have an appreciation for now what's going on in the county that weekend of Dam to Dam.
I'm glad you brought up Liking for Biking because both Bill and Mike Paul were instrumental in launching that. When that idea came, Adam, that was an idea that you had brought to the committee was how do we get bikes out of garages, and back on the roads with families. And you both helped lead that too. I mean, how many Saturdays were you to all three taking turns? Now, again, the great thing is people can help. So it's not just you and Mike Paul and Adam every single weekend. Now that's grown and it gives others the opportunity to step in and lead and volunteer and grow that volunteer base. It's awesome.
You were asking some kind of numbers earlier, Mike, about how many people. Christine pulled some facts for me. This goes back to 2010.
Wow.
We have had a total number of riders, not individuals, but just riders over the years, of over 7,000 riders that have participated in Dam to Dam.
Unreal.
That's neat.
From 9, well, I have 8 on our paper for first year. Might have been 9, might have been 8.
Okay.
But we've hit almost 800 several times. We had to fight through the year of COVID,
All right.
which was interesting. And I really believe that we were on track for our first 1,000 rider year if it wasn't for COVID.
Yeah.
Do you know that year during COVID, we had because we have such a high cost, we don't sacrifice that event on providing breakfast, providing lunch, providing quality SAG stops, allowing youth 18. If you're in high school and you're 18, so high school and younger, riding for free. Now we have My Team Triumph, their captains and their angels all ride for free. It's an expensive event. It costs us, and then you've got T-shirts, and it costs us a ton of money. Well worth it. But that year of COVID, our sponsors had already agreed in February. By February, we're always getting our sponsors to make the event possible. It was March when COVID kind of became this reality in the community, and the committee starting to talk, what does that look like? Social distancing, nobody understands COVID. There's this camp that believes this way, this camp that believes this way. How do we be responsible and honor all? So we turned it into a virtual event, ride your way, the safe way, whatever that means to you. Every single sponsor that year told us to keep their sponsorship because they knew we had already incurred so much cost. And so all the people who registered to ride virtually, we sent them their packets in the mail of their event T-shirts.
Wow.
And then we put together an outdoor adventure guide as a way for people to still get out and get active that summer. And so it just speaks to the volume of those who support this event year after year. They also see the value. Been very easy for all those supporters and sponsors to say, well, it's not happening, give it back to us. And they didn't. And that was critical for us.
Neat.
The byproduct of that, too, is that was a year that tourism was really hit. People weren't traveling. And the support from those sponsors also helped Visit Wabash County in a big way beyond just dam to dam. So
Wow, that's neat.
this event is near and dear to me.
Good.
We talked about in those early days, like key memories that you had from year 1 and year 2. But if you think of dam to dam, the big picture, all coming up on 17 years of it, are there specific moments that stick out to you, different years or guests that you would have had to come into town or anything like that?
I have one, kind of unique. The cowboy, the Iron Cowboy who came.
James Lawrence.
So he comes, stays in my log cabin at the time.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So I had him up there, and that was a unique thing for him, and he kind of really got cool. And he was a earthy guy, as you can imagine. And then, yeah, you guys probably all know him better than I do. Buckeyes. He had never seen a buckeye because he was from Utah. So I took him down there. I said, hey, let me show you something. So and I'm a big buckeye guy. I like picking them. I like holding them and taking them out. And I gave him a bunch of those, and I put a bunch of them in the bag, and he goes, well, I go, take those home to your kids. And he goes, I'm going to take these home and plant one and see if I can get one to grow. I don't know if it ever grew or anything. I've never heard from him since, but that was kind of a neat thing when he came. And that was a great learning thing for us because we thought, oh, we'll get some big name in here and see if that does something for a ride. I don't know that that really did much for us. But it showed that, hey, we're just regular folks in here having a regular time.
Yeah.
So.
And he had went and spoke at some of the schools, which was
Right.
nice. And the other thing that, too, was I felt like for some of you who rode with him during his journey and his goals, it was some reciprocity to bring him now back to our community. Mike Paul, you rode with him, didn't you?
I rode with him twice.
And Adam, you also, and then Roger Peebles as well, correct?
That's right.
And so it felt good to have him now come see our community. And I've seen him do some of his promos in one of our Dam to Dam jerseys, so that was all right.
Oh, wow. Neat.
Yeah.
What did the Iron Cowboy do back then?
That was after his 50-50-50.
Does Ironman in 50 days.
Yeah.
50
One
states.
every day. Oh, and 50
And 50
states.
states.
Yeah, 50 states, too.
And you said, we're going to go to Muncie and ride with him. And I said, this whole thing's fake. There's no way. So I went along. I was like, yeah, he's over there, whatever. But no, he really did it.
The
Then
wisdom
we-
of Mike Paul.
Yeah,
That's
that's
fake.
Then we went to Utah and finished it with him in
Oh,
Utah.
that's right. Yeah.
Probably, 10 days later or something,
Yeah.
3 of us jump in a pickup truck and drive.
25-hour drive straight through.
And then he starts to do his kind of a speaking tour and promoting what he had accomplished. And between the 3 of us, and I think Parker Beecham was on board.
Oh,
and
yeah, he was. He helped make it possible.
Yeah. So we invited him to come to Wabash, and like you said, he spoke to some high school students about setting long-term goals and, working through the heart of life, and rode in the Dam to Dam, and it was pretty cool experience.
So the truth is, Bill, is you're our real celebrity. That's all we needed all along is what that verified for us. You and Mike Paul.
I am
It was a
strictly
snowball.
I am a doormat for Mike Paul. And I'm happy to be that. And I'm very comfortable in that position.
That was with
So-
the Iron Cowboy. It was the first time I'd ever thought you had to ship a bicycle. That cost some dollars. That cost some
to bring
dollars
his
to put a
bike
bike in a case. Yes, it does.
It was a beautiful case, too. I had not seen that before. I'm thinking, dang, that's a heck of a suitcase.
Yes.
And that is designed for his bike.
Yeah.
So-
It makes sense. They're not going to strap it to the top of the plane, toss it in cargo.
So another story, or go ahead, Mike.
No, go ahead.
So another story that sticks out to me is, so I'm one of 10 kids. So I got a lot of brothers, and we always do things. I mean, we've been to Utah and floated the rivers and fished with brothers, and my sisters would go off and do things. So I invite them all to come and ride, and they did for several years. And I had 3 of my brothers kind of liked riding, but weren't real good. And I can remember we were going through the Mrs. Sinawal there between La Fountain and Somerset. And we're coming through
Hogsback.
there. Hogsback, right in that area, when the bridge was still open through there. So we were coming through there, and I can remember two of my brothers kind of got in the middle of the peloton, and I didn't really pay much attention, but they said afterwards, they go, I've never gone 25 miles an hour and not been pedaling. They had never had that experience of being inside and being carried by the peloton. And I just
Swept
kind of
along.
they thought, I am fit. I can ride 25 and not pedal. And they laugh about that still to this day.
hilarious.
They talk about that.
I
so.
can remember one year they made it to Rich Valley and turned around. So in the next year, we made a sign that said Rauh Brothers Turnaround. There, right there at the Rich Valley Old Quarry. We stuck a sign in there.
Not only that, but there were other signs along the way, too, that I remember you guys had stationed along the way. I don't know if it was on my birthday or if it was something, but very cute and clever.
Break
you kind
a,
of write
break
up
a
and
sweat,
say,
not a chain, those kind of things.
Those, Yep, very cute, very neat.
How about you, Mike?
What's that?
Any memories? Favorite memories from the ride?
Well, me and you talked about this maybe a week or two ago. The Brian Dawson flat tire. Was that during the soggy?
That was, I think,
And that was up at Manchester,
on the highway.
15.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, man.
I drive past there and remember that moment.
Every
time I
time.
go.
Well, so tell us.
My wife is tired of me telling that story. That's where we fixed Brian
Dawson's.
With those semis,
Yeah, going right by us.
and it
That's
was,
one of the biggest memories.
I think it was rain. It had started raining at that point, and so we're all out there cold and wet.
Cold and wet. And I'm not a tire changer. I've done it, but I'm not good at it. Mike's much better at it. And I
Queen
just sat
Adams
there and just
changed
thought,
it.
can you guys go any faster? I'm cold. I want to go. Come on.
Let's go.
yeah.
So
I was actually thinking the other day, I started riding with you in the beginning, and I do believe we've rode together at least 15,000 miles
ooh, yeah.
Wow.
for sure.
Good.
Adam, I'm sure 10 probably,
Yeah,
but me and Bill have rode together at least 15,000 miles.
yeah. We've shared a lot of time in the saddle, and
We cried a lot.
we've gone through McDonald's drive-throughs on our bikes before.
I've done that many times.
And the
No, I have not
number
participated in it.
the number of first-time riders that I've helped get through their first 100-mile ride.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of times it's at the dam to dam. You know, they made it a goal 2 years in advance. You know, they rode 50 miles the year before, and then they came out and they rode the 100 miles. But this event, for a lot of people in our community, means something. Like it's a long-term memory that they think back on, and they'll tell stories about. I think it's
Fun for them, fun for us to relish in that. That's neat that you've done that.
yeah.
That's really neat.
We've had as young, I think our youngest century route rider was 16, and she did it solo. She didn't have a dad or a grandparent or a cousin.
I remember. Yes.
Yeah, at 16. And I think that for us was that pinnacle of setting the stage for a healthy hobby that you can do whether you're 16 or celebrating turning 50. And that was really, really great for us to be a part of and witness that, and for her to celebrate it too.
Who was the older gentleman that used to do liking for biking?
He was from Terre Haute or Brazil.
Brazil, that's Kokomo. He was somebody's,
He was like 80 years old.
and he had a girlfriend here in town.
Yes.
He did.
It was
Yes.
somebody's mom.
Great guy.
Great guy,
Great
come and
guy.
ride.
Amazing rider.
That's been
I think
a
he was
lot
about
of
80
years.
years old.
I remember
Yeah.
him too.
That's been years. I
Yeah.
would be surprised if
remember
he's
his
still
name.
around. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, no, I know he passed a few years ago.
Did he?
Yeah.
Okay, that would, yeah.
Yeah, I wish I remembered his name.
Yep.
Dang it.
So as we get ready to look into September and the 17th annual Dam to Dam event, some news this year. Christine, you're going to miss your very first Dam to Dam in probably 14 years.
Ever. So in Bill Rauh style, I am also celebrating my 50th birthday.
Oh, my gosh.
However, I'm not doing it as the same healthy choice of a 100-mile bike ride. Myself and a few friends are going to Greece, and I accidentally, truly booked my trip the same weekend as Dam to Dam. And it is in very capable hands. Stephanie has taken the charge in the last few years since she's come on to the Visit Wabash County team. She'll be great. Mike Paul, you got to be there for your 5 a.m. crew.
All right.
But it is actually, it's hard for me to miss because it is in my bones, one of my favorites, but in such capable hands, you won't even know I'm not there.
The event, the day of, the weekend of, there's just so much energy in downtown between, I mean, it's just I start to see the parking, dam-to-dam parking signs downtown, and it just gets me excited because you know that morning, that Sunday morning, that the parking lots are going to be filled. People are excited. There's bikes and there's young people and old people, and they come to the Y early. They get breakfast is provided for them. They can check in on Saturday night if they want. And then we used to do a mass start, and the ride got so large that it just really it wasn't safe anymore.
It wasn't safe. Yeah.
And so we've broken it up, and you kind of have suggested start times depending on how far of a ride you're going to do. But people can kind of start at their own pace, and they come back through after they've gone through all the SAG stops, and then they get lunch provided for them. And like you said, you can pick up your jerseys. If you've ordered jerseys, you get your T-shirt. But it is just a fun weekend. I'm always exhausted when it's all said and done, and I feel like I need a couple days vacation.
Yeah.
But man, what a fun event and way to showcase all of Wabash County.
I agree. And it brings me joy each time you originators of the event feel that we've honored what it was meant to be all along, all these years later. And Bill, we've had conversations about how I've thanked you for trusting us with that and always wanting to make sure that you felt honored through that process, because really you all poured into it. And I don't cycle. And that's not my talent. And so you've just shared so much time and knowledge with myself, and same with Stephanie. Stephanie just got her first road bike this year on how to execute that event in a way that is good for cyclists, whether they are 100-milers. We did a crazy 150-mile for a while. Or if it's a mom and a daughter. I remember Karen Walters and Sammy riding together years ago, and they did the 15. And it was amazing to see those two sharing time together. Now Sammy's all grown up. But
Yeah, she's grown up.
she's grown up. I have to ask you this.
Yes.
I'm supposed to ask which of your siblings is your favorite to ride with?
Mike Paul.
We'll leave it there. We will leave it there.
Sarah Cole.
Wise answer. Wise answer.
SC.
By a lot.
SC.
By a lot.
As we get ready to wrap up this episode, I thought it'd be fun to do some interesting facts and then also kind of like lightning round of questions. So,
Holy cow.
Buckle up when Adam's in that driver's seat. You never know. You never know.
what's the toughest hill? Indiana generally is pretty flat, but we do have some hills on the dam to dam routes.
Connor Hill,
Connor Hill,
Rich Valley.
Yeah, I would go with that.
yeah.
Because there's not like a rip your legs off hill in Wabash County. But for that, for the length of it and the pitch, the grade, yeah, I'd go with that.
And we flipped the directions of the dam to dam now a couple times, and so sometimes you get to go down Connor Hill, which is great. But those years, we went up it, and you're pretty deep in that point, right?
Right.
50,
You're 50,
55
right at 50.
miles.
Yep.
Yeah, halfway. For
Yeah.
Sure.
And it's one of those
Gentle.
never
It just keeps going.
ending,
Yeah.
you know.
But you can see it. See the tops.
How about your favorite sag stop?
Dang.
Well,
Okay.
Connor stuff's good too.
Connor's always good, and that's because my staff's there.
Got Scary
and they're
Carrie and
What are they
You've got
called?
bacon there,
Team
too.
Bacon.
You
Team
got
Bacon.
bacon
That's it,
there.
yes.
Yeah.
So that one's there. I always liked.
Stockdale's nice too.
Oh, yeah.
I always liked the one. Oh, I don't think it's a stop anymore. Rick Porter's mom's.
Was that right inside Rauh?
No, it's 400 west and 950 south.
It's Long Farm now. It's
Okay.
Jennifer's house.
Yep.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
That was just a family that just kind of said,
Volunteered and did. And I actually rode my bike up there the other day. There's a limb down, and I rode up and actually rode up to the porch, and I saw her sitting there, and I introduced myself. She goes, "Oh, I know who you are. Yeah, you're the one who started the whole bike thing." It was funny how she said that. And I talked to them. I said, "I just want to thank you for all the years you let us do it here." They're
and
real
that
neat.
that was a great example. I mean, it was just a family that had been asked and volunteered. One of my core memories was we changed the route one year, and we went by a dairy farm that was kind of south of town, if I remember right.
South and east.
And they gave out milk just
And string cheese and coolers.
out of their cooler. They weren't an official SAG stop. They just wanted to be part of the Dam to Dam.
Fun.
And
Neat.
I think we had gone past their house one year because of Chip and Sil had kind of rerouted us.
Yeah.
And so the next year we went back, and they were a little heartbroken because
right, 'cause
they
we
didn't
go
have
by.
all the
Really?
Dam to Dam riders.
Fun. Neat.
What's your favorite post ride meal?
Pizza.
Peanut butter and jelly. I don't know why. That just tastes good at that time.
Anything.
Anything.
Anything
Yeah.
tastes good after 100
I know.
miles.
Yep.
Remember in Utah when we finished the 100-mile ride? We ordered pizza and they delivered it to our vehicle there at the park.
That's awesome. Can I have your address, please? Yes, it is this parking lot. And we're
Yep,
not going
it
to
was.
stab you, we swear.
Yeah, we swear, yeah.
We're not serial killers.
I knew Dam to Dam had become something special when.
For me, it was day one. It's just the idea of starting it and that kind of stuff. And, had some good friends that we were starting this thing. I didn't know it was going to go for 2 years or 3 years. It was just kind of a neat thing. Since then, with Christine taking over, it's been a lot easier for me, because in the first days, I kind of took care of the supplies. It was my treat to my buddies. Come, just show up. Bring your clothes, whatever. I got a cooler full. Does anybody want anything special? We'll
I
just
always
fill
left
it.
tips at the end of the ride.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Funny, I don't remember that, but thank you.
They're written on paper.
Yeah.
They're written on
IOUs.
paper.
Don't invite me back next
IOU.
year. Yeah.
I had Christine pull some stats, and she says that, as we talked earlier, there's over 7,000 riders if we add up all of the years. 23 U.S. states have been represented, 2 additional countries outside of the United States that we know of. And this is a very interesting stat. Nearly 1,800 pounds of peanut butter
See there.
have been spread during the Dam to Dam.
Yeah.
Wow.
I should have added up how many 5-gallon water jugs. Clearwater has always donated those 5-gallon water jugs
Yes.
for the SAG
Yeah,
stops.
I haul them all. I know where they are.
Yeah, hey, we're now self-sufficient. Jennifer got a pickup truck, But, we're now up to, I think we pick up anywhere, does this sound right to you, Adam, 50 5-gallon jugs of water from Clearwater. And if it's hot, we're using garden hoses to refill, because we've run out, like at Connor has a and on those really warm days.
As people are listening and finishing up this conversation, if you want to know more information on the Dam to Dam, you can visit the Visit Wabash County website. Very easy to find, but you can do I think it's /Dam to Dam or do a search. Your team has done an amazing job of making it very easy to register for the ride. Look at all the routes from 15 all the way up to 100 miles. There are break points for when you register. You can save a little bit of money. So if that's important to you, get registered as soon as possible. If not, if you're a fair weather rider, you can ride and register all the way up to Dam to Dam Day. Yeah. Show up. If it's a beautiful 80-degree day and sun shining, show up and we'll get you a spot and you can go ride around our county. One last question, guys. What do you hope people experience when they ride in Dam to Dam?
Good weather.
A little more philosophical, joy.
Oh.
Just pure joy.
And Christine?
I get that every day riding my bike. That's why I ride.
I have to echo, Bill, that is those mornings when I hear these cyclists come in and they are truly, genuinely kind people. And when they return, whether it's hot, foggy, soggy, we've had it all, windy, they return and they're smiling and they're full of joy and they say how amazing the volunteers were, how well it was marked, how kind our community is. And, that day, those people are our ambassadors. It's like a countywide party for 8 hours throughout this entire county all at once. And so for me, it is also that joy. And one step further, it's the joy of watching my team work together. There is a big, huge day, all hands on deck. It is a 12-hour day. It starts early. It goes late. Many of you have returned for those hot evening hours of loading it all back into our office and seeing my team choose to lean in and not complain and find the joy.
Neat.
Yeah.
I've been at the finish line many times.
Yes.
Many times.
Yes,
At the
you have.
arch, I set it up and tear
Yeah.
it down. And every single person, when they go under the arch and finish, are smiling and just
Yep.
total joy, just like you said.
Yeah.
Neat.
Every one of them.
Yeah. It is neat.
As I think back 16 completed years into our 17th year now of what this ride has started as, and just this grassroots, because you want to experience the joy and celebrate a healthy lifestyle with friends. What it has turned into, the volunteers that it's brought out, the sponsorships, the relationships that it's built, the people that have seen our county for the very first time because of Bill's birthday ride. It's immeasurable, the number of people that have been exposed to our county because of this. It also makes me think of this podcast.
Yeah.
And it was a grassroots. It was 3 friends sitting around talking about how do we promote our county. And here we are.
Is there anybody listening?
Not right now, Bill.
Yes,
No.
Mike Paul. Of course.
Oh, okay.
But we have had other individuals step up and support us in our goals of sharing the message of Visit Wabash County. Just like people kind of surrounded you and said, we're there for you, Bill. Let's go for a ride.
Yep.
We've had other community partners and individuals and businesses put their arms around us and say, let's go for a ride. And this podcast wouldn't be possible without the generous support of those individuals and businesses like Bowen Health, Lisa Gilman Investment Fund, the Sandra Kunkel Trust, Mark and Amy Ford, Paperworks Industries, City of Wabash, Community Foundation of Wabash County, and Visit Wabash County. Until next time, this is Adam Stakeman,
I'm Christine Flohr.
and this is ThriveIN Wabash County.